All right, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bourbon Banter Evans. Justin, what are we in store for today?
So this one's going to be a little bit more challenging.
Okay.
And by challenging, because it could be a different rabbit hole or a wormhole or a just never-ending
Controversy?
I mean, bourbon and out of bounds. Or is the ceiling ever going to burst and this whole thing come crashing down on top of us? Or is there just no bounds and it's just going to be never-ending?
And eventually bottles will be $500.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of brands on the table specifically geared towards where we're going to go towards this, explanation of what we're trying to say the bourbon out of bounds is, and some things I just witnessed here recently that I'm a little bit not happy with, but at the same time, I still did it. So if I'm still doing it, we're still doing it, you guys are still doing it, more than likely the boundary has been moved further and further away, and it just keeps ceiling rising.
Yeah, the ceiling just keeps getting there, and I mean, it's kind of like, will the IT bubble, it bust? Will the housing market, eventually will it bust? It's the same thing with the bourbon market.
Yeah, it really is. And so I say we go ahead and start with some reflection.
Yep,
some
go for
Blue
it.
Run. And the reason that we're going to start with this one is because this is a higher end brand, but yet it doesn't have an age statement. It doesn't have a source.
Nope.
There's definitely thoughts of where it's sourced from. There's thoughts of what the age is. Obviously, we know that it's not on the label, so it's at least a minimum of 4 years by bourbon law,
right,
and things of that nature. But let's go ahead for the first time ever. Let's talk a little bit, not exact. Let's talk a little bit about pricing.
Yeah.
And so where we're going with this is what the out of bounds is. And so we were willing to spend $95-ish in our market. Depending on your market, could be something different. And we were excited to get this.
Yes, indeed.
It's a sweet and spicy bourbon, is what it says on the back. It's somewhere between 4 and 6 years old. Nobody's ever said there was more. There was some 13 and a half, and 14 year that they released. That was all sourced. Right. It was quite a big difference in price.
And everything they have is sourced.
Yeah,
everything it is.
Yeah, and well, they are they're distilling their own stuff.
Right.
I don't know that they've put any out yet because it's still pretty young. But
yeah.
So that being said, then we have a chicken cock, which is one of my favorite brands that's been revived, and it's kind of doing a throwback, playing homage to the bottling, what it used to look like, which is really cool. And this is a specific 8-year double oak.
Right. Also
expensive, to me at least, around the $100 mark.
Yeah.
And that being said, cheers to you guys.
Cheers, like and subscribe. Let us know what you think so far. I mean, we haven't really gotten into it, but any comments down below, we always read them. We want to know what you think.
And this is the second video that we're doing. So let me go ahead and admit that I have the same bourbon socks on. Can you...
Yes, they are bourbon socks, and they are from a distillery. It's called Lux Row.
Yeah, so same socks, same shirt. That being said,
I mean,
that reflection is actually pretty good.
It is. It's not bad. Now, my question is it $90+ worth it?
That's going to be up to the eye of the spender,
the consumer.
They worked hard for their money. They're going to spend it how they want to. But what is going to be a slight different thing is our control.
Yes,
our control. The only thing we're going to say is it didn't cost that. We're not going to say how much it cost, but it didn't cost that.
No, it did not cost that.
And for whatever our control did cost, I'm not saying that it is better or not, but I would probably prefer the control.
I do like the control, and I'm not saying...
Even though this is good.
No, this is very good, and I'm also not saying that the control is readily available either.
So I've never tried the double oak chicken cock, which I'm excited about.
That's the first time having the reflection for me.
Okay,
so
I actually like
good.
This is like chasing the butterfly, but it's also chasing a really expensive product. If you were to actually invest in getting every single butterfly that existed...
Holy cow.
That'd be like a mortgage.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's a fairly good product when Molson Coors buys them.
Yeah.
So
now they have some money backing.
Yeah.
To produce and buy more bottles or more barrels of source stuff and then bottle them and then put out another higher price tag. And I'm not knocking this for a high price tag, but my question is, at what point do we stop saying this is $95 good because I can go to the store and get Elijah Craig, Larceny, Eagle Rare, all for $39.99 or less. And this is 10 years old.
10 years old.
Not the same 10 years old makes it better.
No.
It is just an age statement. But there is still a little bit of a stigma to an age statement. This is an 8-year. Why does this 8-year, am I completely fine with spending $100 on this 8-year versus that 10-year being $39.99? Right. In our market, keep that in mind. This is Evans.
This is Evans market, and what we're sitting here, and I'm sitting here thinking, I could get how many bottles? I could get 2. of these, almost 3 of these for one of those. I mean, it's one of those, what are you willing to spend?
Exactly. So my thing is, I'm constantly going back and forth with the chicken cock, which we haven't even tried it yet. There's a specific bottle I was just talking about before the video that they did a single barrel of, and I really want to try it. It's an 8-year single barrel bourbon.
Yeah.
And Kisner did it. He's a golfer, and I really want to try it. It's $149.99 on their website. I've got an 8-year 1792 store pick that we were involved in, and there's some people in the background too that were involved in. So if you guys have any questions or comments or concerns while we're doing this, feel free to speak up. That was a $36 bottle, and it was 8 years old. Technically 9 by the time it was bottled, but when it was picked, it was going to be an 8-year. So why did I have no issue saying, you know what, I want this Kisner pick at $150? What boundaries are going to keep getting moved?
Yep.
Or is the ceiling finally just going to go, all right, the people are just not willing to spend this kind of money, especially now that there's, everybody's saying that the economy is changing and things of that nature. Are we willing to spend the same money now that we're going to spend 6 months from now on brands that aren't as well known and that are known?
Well,
and the Eagle Rare that you brought up here, and nothing against them, nothing against these either. Eagle Rare has been around a long time, has been produced a long time. These are newer. They might have to buy their barrels and have to resell to make a profit. That goes into
They have to be profitable. Yes, they have to make money. If not, I mean, you're just giving it away. What happens with people that just give things away? I mean, they go under. I mean, you're not going to make any money. You're not going to be able to stay around. But my question is, all of these new, you've got so many new labels that are coming out that are, I mean, honestly, it's almost constantly you're going to see something new. And the price just is entry level because everybody's buying, they're having to buy it.
Yep.
They're having to do everything. And so the price just keeps going up. I'm with you.
I feel the reason that these newer brands are sustaining this higher price is the same reason that these other brands that are $40, people are willing to pay double for, that are harder to find.
Yeah.
Because they know the quality's there, the history's there, the price point was there all this time. And you're like, well, I paid $90 for this, and it wasn't bad.
No.
But I paid $30 10 years ago for this, and now somebody's selling it for $100. I'll pay that.
Yep.
Because I know how good that is.
Right. And it's one of these, a lot of these new brands, you're basically just taking a leap of faith to see, okay, well, here we go. Here's $120 or whatever, $100. Let's see if it's any good.
And we've been there. We've seen that. You guys have been there that are here. We've been to the distilleries that are up and coming and the new ones, and they're distillates 6 years old now. Or, we tried it at 2, then we tried it at 4. It's pretty good. But in order to compete, they're also coming in with a 6-year. Nothing against age statements. Again, we talked about this in the last video. They're coming in at a 6-year, say it's a bottled and bond, $64.
Yeah.
Or $44. Or $54, depending on which mash it was and which percentages they use of those grains, which actually dictated different pricing. But yet, this bottle right here is in our market $50. It's a 7-year Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill's been around forever. They started out as $39. I think they took advantage of the situation and realized that they could go up $10 and nobody's going to really balk at that per se.
And everybody's seen it, and it could be that, it could be the economy and everything else. It might be more expensive, fuel's more expensive, everything else. It's just what we think is going on. But the thing that gets me is everybody taking this leap of faith for these new brands that are coming out that are usually way above $50.
Right. And so my question to you guys is, would you do it? What is your bubble? At what price point does your bubble burst? Does it say $200 or $250 on a brand new brand? Perfect example. I spent $250 on the Chicken Cock 14-year in Kentucky that I came across. And I had no problems doing that. I'm like, ooh, a 14-year Chicken Cock. I can't wait to try this. I knew it was sourced. It had the mash bill on there, so on and so forth. But I had no problems doing that. At what point do you guys say, nope, not going to do it? And you might say that I'm crazy for that, and that's fine. But keep in mind, we did that collection versus consuming, spend your money that you work hard for and whatever you want.
A lot of those.
And so I've tried a bunch of different brands for different monies and had other people try stuff and send it and didn't like it or did like it.
And see, that's where you and I differ a little bit. You're willing to try a lot of these because you know them. I would rather take that money, add a little bit more, and get some of the older stuff. And not saying you don't. You like the older stuff too. That's just where we're different. So I do have a limit on what I do. This is good. I don't know if I would have done that, just being honest, and everything else like that. But that on maybe an established brand that I could get, like a Pappy Van Winkle, a Rip, whatever else like that.
That's actually a really good.
Yeah.
it's a very sore subject, but a very good way to compare. This is 8 years old at $99, and Rip 10 is 10 years old, obviously,
right,
at $69 or $79, whatever the
MSRP.
new MSRP is. Yep. And so how is it that they are able to do this for so long, but this one comes in? Obviously, it's sourced, so we've talked about that.
Right.
So let me ask Keenan this. Keenan's in the background, and he's been in several of our videos before. So Keenan, we're going to put you on the spot real quick. At what point does your wallet say, I'm not going to try this next new brand at this price point? And I know you're going to be a little bit further away from the microphone, but...
And we can reiterate what he's saying.
Yeah, we can, so when does your bourbon, I guess, bubble burst and say, you know what? I'm not going to spend $250 on this new brand that's coming in. No age statement, no knowing of where it's sourced, but just says the word Kentucky on it. And where are these boundaries going to go? Is there no bounds? Is it going to keep going?
So two things kind of come to mind in this conversation. One, the distillery I think of in this conversation immediately is Bardstown. Just bought a bottle of Bourbon Bond Origin Series. Paid $46 for it. Had it before, absolutely love it. Drinkability totally there for me. $46, I'm all in, right?
Yep.
Used to be big on the Discovery series.
Right.
Discovery's a whole different animal in the price point, but should it be a whole different animal? I know Bardstown has a lot of pride in the science that goes into bourbon making, and obviously they have the recipe right on the bottle for you. But what makes so back in Discovery 4, Discovery 5, I was just all in because of how much I enjoyed 4. But then it just got to the point where, why am I spending this much money on this bottle when $46 kind of
was
the same thing
just as good? And so for those that don't know, the Origin Series is Bardstown Bourbon Company's own distillate.
Yes.
They all released it at 6 years. They've got a wheated and a high rye, 36% actually, and then they've got one of them is bottled and bond, which I believe is the wheated. And in the Discovery that he's talking about is their higher end that has the older source whiskey that is then blended in with several others.
Yep.
So if you haven't had those, they're definitely worth trying, but I agree with you, Keen, 100%. After 4 and 5, I started falling off on the Discovery, tried the Origin Series, and I'm like, at $46, I'm all in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And very rarely do we talk about price because it's not for us to talk about because each market's different. But in this specific video, it just can be controversial.
Right.
And
we knew it going into this, and that's why we're doing it.
And so, Keenan, let me ask you this. When they rolled out a sourced 11-year that was a specific finish at $299, is that past your bourbon bubble?
Completely.
Yep.
And I cannot justify an unknown, in this case we knew the source because it's Bardstown Bourbon Company, for $300. And
I passed on it.
Yeah, I did too. And it had a really cool label. It was like a purplish color, and it was MGP. But I've seen other MGP at 11 and 12 years for $100. So why is theirs $300?
Now, if you give me like a William Heaven Hill that's around, the same, I'm going to go for it because it's an established brand. I understand they're pretty consistent with what they have. And they do range from the 9-year all the way up to the 14.
They've gone 16.
Yeah, 16 and everything. All those price ranges are different. I would probably go above and beyond for those because to me that's an established brand. That's what I am. But anything higher than this, like a Blue Run, I'm pretty much topped out right there. It's good, but there's a lot of things that I could say that are a lot better.
So speaking of William Heaven Hill, which I didn't even think about that when we were doing this video, this is the way I look at it as. So if you took 2 of these at $40, $50, that's a 7-year and a 7-year. You get 2 7-years. You get one William Heaven Hill 14-year. Yes, it's double the age, and one of those is $200.
Yeah,
nothing against that. Nothing against that at all because William Heaven Hill is fantastic.
It is,
but it's the same mash.
It is the same mash, but
so just because of the wax, the bell shape, the label, at what point do we say, all this was tax paid on barrels sitting and aging longer? Does it make it worth $200? For just double the age. And that being said, why is this 14-year $120?
Right.
And it was sourced.
It's sourced.
So the bourbon ceiling, it's looking like it has nowhere but keep getting another oh, we're going to raise it a little bit higher, raise it a little bit higher. And the boundaries, there's no bounds, is what it looks like to me.
No, and then what's crazy to me is you got a 14-year there and you got an 8-year. They're very comparable in price, and that's crazy. It just seems like the higher price stuff now is not age stated higher. It's usually younger stuff. To me, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, and we've already said, you like what you like. Age statement is just an age. It doesn't dictate quality, but it does dictate price a lot of times because tax was paid on those barrels, and we get that. But and don't take this as a negative video.
Not at all.
This is just literally sitting around the bourbon round table and discussing a topic that some people don't want to discuss. So it is literally is the bourbon bubble going to burst? So
instead of talking about, hey, how much are you willing to pay for your house? We're just talking about how much are you willing to pay for your bourbon.
What were you going to say, Keenan?
I was going to interrupt. One of the variables I think about is the bottle itself and why you're buying it, right? So sometimes people in the bourbon world, obviously bourbon buying has not gone down at all.
It's only growing.
Yes.
And so why the ceiling keeps increasing? We're willing to pay more for these bottles. Why are we buying these bottles? And some people buy them for different reasons, right? So some people...
And that is a great thing to say. Well, is people have different reasons for buying it and at different price points. Go on. Sorry.
No, exactly right. So, I mean, I remember buying my first bottle of Rip 10,
oh yeah,
just crazy excited, right?
Yep.
You see it, you're like, you have the opportunity to pay for this thing. And fortunate enough to pay for my first bottle at MSRP.
Yes.
And so... which is just almost unheard of, right?
Right.
And so there's a whole lot of, but you don't see that bottle or bottles like it at that price, right? And so ceiling goes up.
Very hard to find them at that price.
Exactly right. So
that's a perfect example. Ceiling goes up.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, is there a tracker? Every time somebody says, yes, I will pay this, does the ceiling go, oh, yeah, check box, move up?
Yep. We've got a certain number of people that have decided today, oh, this is a good price. Okay, guess what? Let's take a $5 increase.
And
another $5 increase.
There's like a age-old, products are only worth what somebody's willing to buy or pay for them.
Yep.
And so if somebody's willing to pay for that, doesn't that move the boundary a little bit further? I mean, if I'm willing to pay $200 for that rock on the ground, and you're only willing to pay $100 for that rock on the ground, well, I'm pretty sure that the value just went up, and somebody tracked that somewhere and said, well, that next rock's going to be listed at $150, and we hope somebody meets somewhere in the middle.
Well, and what Keenan was talking about is we have a video about that. Collectors or drinkers, we have that. I think that factors into it. But I think a good analogy, and I've said this a couple times today on this video, is it's just like the housing market. Eventually, I think it's going to bust, but it has, in my opinion, it has no sign of ever reaching that point to where that bubble is ready to burst.
That's a good comparison.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, technically, if you want to compare it to the housing market, then I'm going to have to agree with you and say, also look at what happened to the car market during COVID times.
Yeah, very true.
Because of chip shortages or can't produce this or electronics this. But right now, cheers to you guys. I'm empty,
cheers.
so let's continue on with this controversial subject and have some chicken cock double oak.
Right there, hit like, subscribe, and honestly, give us your opinion on this. And hopefully there's a lot of opinions. I think there might be on this one, but we'll try to answer everything. And hey, just because we say something doesn't mean that we're right or you're wrong.
Yeah.
If you don't agree.
We're not the golden standard.
No.
This is just a controversial topic that we decided to come up with Bourbon Banter Evans and see what is actually out there. So my question, again, to you guys, put your in the comments, is, again, stated, what are you willing to spend and what is too much to spend on these new products coming out? And if you are marketing and you are in the marketing team and you said, I got this great idea, I got this new brand.
Yep.
What marketing are you going to do? What are your terms that you're going to put on there? And what pricing are you saying that you think you could sell it at versus you think you wouldn't buy it for? Well, because that's really what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's a guess that this is going to be good or not.
Well, and there's a, and I don't want to go into specifics, but there's a pretty well-known brand that I had that from you, we were over at your dad's house having it. And it was a pretty expensive bottle, and it was probably one of the worst bourbons I've ever had. And it was one that you decided that, no, you couldn't give it away. I don't know if you remember that, and we'll talk off video, but it's a very well-established brand. It was one of their special bottles, and I'm sure it was a pretty penny. It was over probably 100 plus, and it was probably some of the worst bourbon I've ever tasted in my entire life. And it's one of those hard to seek, hard to find bourbons, and I was just like, why the heck would anybody buy this?
And I'm glad you brought that up because I'm about to pull out a bourbon that is one of the favorite ones that people seek at a reasonable price point, but that also reminds me of a time that I had a very standard bourbon 2 nights in a row. I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning and my head was splitting. Now I only had 2 glasses.
Yeah.
I was tired, working a lot, had sore. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, I never get headaches. Second night, I woke up screaming headache. I was like, I never get headaches. I'm like, this is the bottle. So 3 o'clock in the morning, I pour it down the drain. And I have multiple times gone back to that brand, and I've had it several times, but never have I ever been completely happy with that. And that was a $30 bottle.
Yeah.
But it was an established brand that was older, but yet I still, like you said, I still keep trying these more expensive brands just to see what's out there.
Yep.
But at one point, I'm going to get burned and have a brand that is just absolutely not good.
Yep.
But I'm so curious, I can't stop it.
Well, and I think that is where a lot of people get it. It's the curiosity that we all have. It's like, okay, it's got to be pretty good. It's worth. I mean, I think we look at it, and maybe that's the fault of us. We look at price point as far as quality,
and it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
No.
But the new brands that are coming out of the market look at price point. I don't think they look at quality or price point, or not a combination.
No,
they look at just price point.
They're
going to have to make profit somewhere.
They're trying to recoup their costs and they're trying to make a profit. And if I have a guess, their margins, they're probably trying to make some pretty good margins on it too.
So that brings me to Taylor. A lot of people go after this bottle, and $40 to $50 later at the MSRP of $45,
right.
SRP, depending on how you want to call it. There's a reason that people are willing to pay more than this for this bottle, but I spent $100 on this one. And people will call me crazy for spending $100 on this one.
It's actually not bad.
But if I spent $100 on this one, they'd be like, "Oh, Taylor's really good."
Yeah, I mean,
but how do we know? We don't know what this one tastes like yet.
Well, and then a lot of people will say, "You paid $100 for Taylor. Where can I get that?" I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what. We'll just comment on this. It's actually pretty.
I'm very pleased with the Chicken
pleased
Talk
with it,
line,
yeah.
especially the older stuff. Now, the original stuff that first came out, no, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about these. So.
Now, I'm a sucker for twin oak, double oak. I like that. So I might be a little biased on this one.
Now I'm gonna put somebody else on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this person has been drinking bourbon with us for a little while, and he's tried a lot of brands, and so. He's never been on camera anymore. We're not going to put him on camera, but if you can't hear him, we'll kind of say what he's saying. But Alan's here. I think he's been on one before. So, Alan, we're going to put you on the spot. What point does a new brand come out? Penelope's a good one. $80, $75, $90. At what point are you not willing to spend that kind of money to see if that next new blend or whatever is worth it? Where is your bourbon bubble? Do you think it's going to burst? And where are your boundaries at?
Well, take Penelope, as you just mentioned specifically. There are a number of their profiles that I said, here's a new one. It looks nice. It sounds fun. It's $80. I'm going to pass. And then comes Rio. And what happens with Rio? It's the hype. And that's what I was going to say a second ago. There's the whole tater side of this, which is AKA hype. And where does the hype come from? That's a whole different conversation that you guys can have.
Yeah.
But when there's hype behind something, and it all goes behind this one bottle, the same thing, it's in the same line. What's that? The Cooper series of Penelope. It's just $80 and pass, $80 and pass. Here comes the rosé, $80 and pass. Rio, all of a sudden people are willing to pay $300 and up when it first dropped, and it's still being sold.
I just recently tried Rio,
and I've never had it. How is it?
I will never drink it again.
See that's maybe you're on something. The hype, and so are they? My question is,
blew my mind in a bad way.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, and my question is, sometimes are a lot of these brands going out to these people and saying, "Hey, hype this stuff, hype it up, and trying to drive the price up."
Let's go ahead and talk about Alan's term for the.
Yep.
The YouTube talking heads.
The talking heads of YouTube.
Talking heads.
Yep.
I like that term. And so there's a lot of influencers. There's a lot of people that have a lot of clicks and views. We just are nerdy, so we're not looking for that.
Nope.
But I like that term, and that is a very good possibility. If they have a lot of views and clicks and so on and so forth, you could potentially sway them to hype up a brand. And now there's a lot of bigger, better YouTube people that do that,
Well,
and I swear...
Not better, but yeah, there are the other
Okay,
YouTube Uncut, unfiltered.
Yeah, uncut, unfiltered, yeah. That I would definitely see that happening. But it's funny that you mentioned the Rio, and I can't go back to that one again, because after hearing the price point and trying it, and I had to do it double blind.
So
I didn't get to know what it was. They just said, hey, we want to know your opinion on this.
And so you gave it the thumbs down?
I couldn't get to a sync fast enough.
So if you don't mind, what is the MSRP on that one? What is it supposed to be?
Batch 1 was $79, if I'm not mistaken.
$79?
And the new MSRP, I believe, is now $99. So to batch 2, they raised the price because of
because of the hype.
The hype, yeah.
The first.
And so I get that. Hype definitely drives price up.
Right, of
100%.
course. I mean, one of the Henry McKenna. That was one.
That was a great example.
Yeah, that's a great one, because right when they won the
whiskey of the year,
it went up $10.
And then it went up $30.
Yeah,
right. So
I mean, it was instantaneous $10 bump after what, maybe 5 months, or not even that.
We've been in this a long time, so we get to say, oh, I remember it was $19.99.
Yep.
But that was a different story, and now it's not.
Right.
Yeah. So that being said, again, that hype will drive something up. Look at when Elijah Craig Barrel Proof won the world's best bourbon or whiskey or whatever it was, that specific batch.
You couldn't find it.
Yeah, and it went nuts.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
So that ceiling keeps getting moved up, and the boundary keeps getting there. So, Alan, back to your boundary. If a new brand comes out, never tried it, no reviews, even if you look at reviews or you don't look at reviews, it comes in at, it has the buzzwords, non-chill filtered, age stated, $200. Are you in or are you out?
If I'm not educated on the product and I don't know anything, I'm almost always out.
Almost always out.
But if it's hyped up in the media.
If there is hype, especially locally from people I trust, but that, like we said, the YouTube talking heads, sometimes they get the product first and generate the hype.
Right.
And that...
It doesn't change things.
And so I think that's a great point right there. Locally, people that I trust, that I think have good palates, that I trust, that are, I generally think that I have the same palate as them, or I think that they have good palates, yes, I would agree with you. Then it's worth a try. It might be something that I would take a chance on. But anybody else other than that, people that I know locally, no. I wouldn't do it.
I mean, so I haven't. They call this at one point in a sales temperature, or a sales pitch, taking your temperature on something. Like, what's your temperature on this? How high would you go? And so that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm starting to come down on my temperature as far as trying to find these things. And this is not a shot at Blue Run or Chicken Cock, because like I've said multiple times, huge fan of these.
Very
I like
good
chasing
product.
the butterfly.
Very good product.
So on and so forth. But at what point, and what we're really referring to is unknown brands that are coming back into the market.
And these were unknown brands at one point coming into the market, too.
Yeah. Now they're sustaining and doing okay.
Yes.
But it's these no-name brands. 2 years old.
Yeah, and
or less.
Yes, and they have to be
$50 a pop.
They
At
have
what
to be
point
stated.
do we say the ceiling is never going to break?
No.
Because if we're paying $50 for a 2-year insert Texas whiskey here, because there's a lot of that.
Well, and you know what? I think if you want to know the truth, a lot of people will sit there and say, and a term I really don't like, tater. Tater does this, does that. You know what? To
Alan
me,
brought it up first.
I know he did. But really, a tater to me is somebody that just goes and buys it because it's out there. That's a tater to me. But guess what?
Actually, I think if you look up the definition of tater, that is part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have a video on this. You collect or you drink.
Yeah.
I'm a drinker, but that's what it is. But when it comes down to it, I think it's going to eventually bust. Are we anywhere close to it? No. I don't think we're anywhere close to it, because if we were, you would see the makers that are doing this, all the distilleries, they wouldn't be building more rick houses.
No. They're forecasting,
Yes.
they're better at it than anybody else.
Yep.
Because they're the ones that are seeing the data and everything else saying that this is being consumed quicker than we can make it. But then everybody else is getting a piece of that pie and saying, we're going to create this brand. We're going to call it White Table Bourbon. What does that mean? Oh, well, the Bourbon Round Table Bourbon. And it's a 1 year, 36-month finished in a wine to cover this up, $200.
And so
somebody's going to buy that. And then somebody's going to be out there and be like, "It's the best 1 year 36 or 1 year 6-month finish I've ever had."
So it could be what I think is what you're seeing now in the beer market, the micro distillery or micro breweries. A lot of them are starting to go away, and so you kind of seeing a little bit of a bust on the micro distilleries in beer.
I want to say this could be bad memory. I want to say at one point there was 160, and there was over 1,600 that popped up in the brewery world in the last several years, and this was probably 5 years ago,
Right.
when it went from the craft beer being a big thing. Same thing with craft brands popping up into the bourbon.
And so that's kind of the analogy I'm going with. You're starting to see those go down. I think you might see some of the pop-up brands go down, but I really think a lot of this increase in some of these distilleries are for them to sell their distillate to
It could be.
other ones.
So again, I'm going to go with my question is, what is your ceiling?
Yep.
What is your boundary? What are you willing to spend? What are you not willing to spend? What are the terms that you look for when you decided that I worked really hard this week for this money? I'm now about to spend X amount on this bottle or this unknown bottle. Or are you only looking for the sought after bottles? You've already completed your, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try this. No longer am I trying anything. I'm now going for what I like. Some people do that.
Yep.
And that's the last part that I want to bring up in the bourbon and out of bounds. I've met several people that have been collecting, several people that have been drinking,
Yep.
several that have been trying, and they are done. They pretty much said, I've been in this long enough. I'm done with this. I'm now going to go only after the ones that I enjoy drinking.
Right.
They're no longer going to try this new brand that comes in at this age statement or this proof.
Right.
Now, if somebody has it, they're not willing to turn it down.
No, if somebody
But
wants
they're not
try
seeking it out.
not
They are
gonna
now
buy it.
going to the store. Do you have this?
Right.
I don't have this. Okay, thank you. And then they're not hunting, whereas hunting is another subject, and it's saying like,
Well, and
and it
that's-
shouldn't be because hunting is in a tree. This is more like shopping.
This is yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is shopping.
So that's the end part of this is the boundary has been reached by a lot of the people that I know, because now they're not willing to try these new ones. They're now just saying, you know what, tried and true has always been there.
Yep.
And go there, which we brought out some brands that were tried and true.
Tried and true,
Yeah.
and they will be forever as long as they keep the the taste profile what it is.
Yeah, so if the quality stays the same, I don't see that changing.
Right.
But when is Justin's curiosity going to stop trying these? I don't know.
Well, and you know what? That's everybody's going to have their own time and their own specific series of events that's going to cause them to just say, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Honestly, a lot of things. Tell us if you've had in the comments. Tell us if you've had ones that are great, ones that you've been disappointed with, and everything else like that. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think this is a really good controversial video.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones.
Well,
we've
I say
ever done.
really good. We don't ever do really good videos. I think we have good content. Yeah.
It's always good
It's all
content.
debatable. You know?
We try to keep it real. We try to keep it to our opinion. We try to keep it to what we like, and we do not try to tell you what you should like and what you shouldn't like.
That, but I do want to say it's not just our opinion. Sometimes it's 100% fact. I mean, it is
True.
fact-based stuff.
Well,
we're
and
not
we-
trying to do that.
No,
you know?
we try to be as factual as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, as far as bourbon out of bounds, this could go on for hours.
We could. I think
Yeah.
it's about. I think we've reached a pinnacle of what we need to do tonight.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. And to be honest with you, I'm ready to try a little bit of a different bourbon. you
Me
know?
too.
And nothing against our Control versus these. These were examples.
The Control. We already know what the Control is.
Yeah.
So
The Control beats the Reflection.
yes,
I'm on the fence on the double.
I'm kind of on the fence too. But like I said before, I love the double oaked, twin oaks. If it's put in another oak barrel, I'm good with
Yeah,
it. I love it.
and for those that want to stay tuned to the very end of the video and actually listen to the whole thing, the last video that we did, we talked about buzzwords, bourbons, and terms. Okay. That being said, this one specifically states it's a double barrel, and then changes the term
Yes.
to whiskey,
Yep.
not bourbon, because it goes into a second barrel.
So go check out that video.
Pretty cool little side note at the very end, little nugget. But cheers to you guys. Thank you for
Cheers.
joining in.
Like and subscribe.